Brad Crawford rejoins us here on ITG. He was with us, I think it was last week, Brad. So we are glad to have you back. It does appear, though, before we get to Carolina, bowl season, CFP, et cetera, that we might be on the verge of some wild breaking news out of Chapel Hill. Have you heard anything on the Bill Belichick situation? And if you have, can you fill us in?
Yeah, I was told Sunday by several of our UNC insiders that the expectation is that Bill Belichick will be the new head coach in Chapel Hill. There's some breaking reports in the last few minutes that it's happening. There's other conflicting reports. Our guys at Inside Carolina just said it's not set in stone yet. Conversation is still ongoing. So I do expect by the end of the week something will happen. Maybe we get a press conference, but he's the last coach right now in the crosshairs. John Summerall has pulled out of it. He's saying it to Lane. Matt Campbell's not going to be the hire at UNC, and I fully expect Bill Belichick to be the Tar Heels' next head coach.
Whew. What do you make of the reports of the dysfunction with the UNC system and Chapel Hill? Explain to us how that sets up. Is that the UNC Chapel Hill board, or is that the Board of Regents for the university system that's meddling right now?
Yeah, that's the system, JC. As you know, in North Carolina, there's regulations and things on like how much coaches can get paid. And I mean, to be honest with you, the NIL situation right now at UNC is horrible. And this is what Bill Belichick needs some reassurances on. You know, there's speculation about his son joining his staff and possibly being the head coach in waiting. That's part of this 400-page football Bible of sorts that Bill Belichick has reportedly given to the Tar Heels to kind of look over. I mean, they had a 5-hour conversation Sunday, and a lot of us thought that it would be announced Sunday night he'd be the new head coach, but there's been a snag. So between Bubba Cunningham, the AD there at UNC, and how the Mac Brown stuff ended, it's been kind of a mess. And it's just kind of funny to me that they're going to fire a 73-year-old coach to hire a 72-year-old coach.
Yeah, Brad, look, man, you know way more and have forgotten way more than I'll ever know about coaching searches and this, that, and the other. This, to me, seems like the most North Carolina nose up, glass of wine with your legs crossed having moment ever. I mean, can they not win with anybody else? It takes Bill Belichick, and
it's an elitist school. It is.
Yeah.
You guys know that I'm from the Palmetto State. I'm from Moncks Corner, Charleston area, and all my cousins down in South Carolina now call me a Yankee because I've lived in North Carolina most of my life.
And I wouldn't go that far, but I hear
if you live here, you choose either NC State or UNC. You choose left or right. And UNC is certainly that program that, yes, has its nose up in the air. Normally they make kind of an in-house hire. We saw basketball go to Hubert Davis. I mean, there were rumors of Jeff Saturday being on the early target list at UNC.
Arthur Smith too. I mean, look, dude,
that would have been so UNC to make those hires.
Belichick is bizarre. I mean, it's like, and I don't know that the guy won't win. I mean, we're in a different era. You know, they get the NIL situation taken care of. A 400-page Bible would scare me, though, because, again, what do we run into? Now, look, there's a big difference between Bill Belichick and a guy that got coffee for the offensive line coach at the Panthers and thinks he's Bill Belichick. Yeah. But we know that can really confuse college players. I mean, you know, with every little detail that you have to – and you don't have time, you're limited – and all that. So I don't know how it'll work out, but he's one of the best coaches in the history of football. You know, Bill Walsh went back and coached at Stanford after the 49ers tenure. It's his second stint there. Had one good year and then a couple bad ones. And he was out. But you're right, Brad. They don't normally go out of the family. They especially don't for basketball. They still haven't. I mean, since they hired Frank McGuire, they have not gone out of the family for basketball. And baseball's the same way, right? Forbes, isn't he a UNC guy? Yeah. Jamie, they're North Carolina's manager or whatever.
He was just promoted.
Football, they got Butch Davis, which I thought was working fine until John Blake got it. They go the up and comer coordinator route with Fedora, but they've also hired NASCAR Carl Torbush. He was an internal promotion for 2 years. They hired John Bunning and just refused to let him go because they could have maybe had Steve Spurrier had they gone ahead and pulled the trigger on old Bunning. He was an alum. Butch, and then Everett Withers was the interim, and then Fedora, and then they went back to the future with Mac Brown. And so now I guess it's Belichick. This is one of the most unique hires in it's one thing to hire Herm Edwards.
I mean,
if you're ASU, it's quite another to get the GOAT.
And there's so many responses from this on folks I've talked to. You ask UNC fans or college football fans, they're like, man, this is an outstanding hire, splash hire, home run. You ask anybody inside college football, and they're like, what are the Tar Heels doing?
Why? I don't know that you need to do that to win there. It just doesn't make sense to me. I don't know. I want to be respectful because my friend Chad Holbrook is a Tar Heel himself, obviously playing there. But it's hard to be whatever. Why not just dig up Ara Parsegian or something like that? All right.
I know a guy right now, Jamie, in Orlando, Florida. They'll take the North Carolina job tomorrow to be the most physical football team in the country.
Nah, he wouldn't take that job tomorrow. He's enjoying the politics.
How about the citrus, man? How about the citrus passing on Bama for the Gamecocks?
Well, that's what I know. We're going there next. I got some more breaking news real quick I want to ask you about. Shane Beamer, one of 9 finalists for the Eddie Robinson Coach of the Year Award. It's Beamer, Kurt Signetti at Indiana, Spencer Danielson at Boise State, Kenny Dillingham at Arizona State, Freeman at Notre Dame, Dan Lanning at Oregon, Rhett Lashley at SMU, Jeff Monken at Army, and Kirby Smart at Georgia. And what really stands out here is Jeff Monken and Shane Beamer are the only 2 coaches that are not in the college football playoff. First of all, congratulations to Shane Beamer. But second of all, with that list there, you think he can win this thing?
Those are the 10 guys actually that I have. I've got 9 of those top 10 in my postseason coaching rankings. I think I had Beamer 7th today. Kenny Dillingham and Jeff Monken, I think, are the two front runners for this. Dillingham 3-9 last season, picked to finish last in the Big 12 and won a conference championship. Did so with a not so great NIL situation. Who knows how many of those guys are going to leave Arizona State, by the way, after the playoff. There's a good chance Sam Levitt is not the quarterback for ASU next year, but he's done a fantastic job. Shane obviously projected to win 5.5 games, won 9, including 6 straight, several against top 25 teams. Shane's done a great job in year 4 to Gamecocks. And then one coach I would not have in there, though, I put Rhett Lashley like maybe 15th. He didn't have any ranked wins. He did get to the conference championship game, but he didn't have to go through any of the ACC's best to get there. But Jeff Monken, Dillingham, Shane, that's kind of my top 3 on great coaches. Signetti did a good job too.
Signetti, yeah. I mean, look, Indiana didn't play anybody either, but it's still freaking Indiana.
But they blew out everybody they played. Yeah,
they did.
I'm telling you, if I had a vote, and I don't because I stopped being a journalist, so I'm not a member of the Football Writers Association anymore, I would have voted Clark Lee.
He's in my top 2 too, yeah.
We've had a lot of talk about records not being the same. And dude, that guy, I saw them in person, man. You look at their players. I mean, they're still lacking talent. And I thought they were one of the best coach teams I've ever seen. But I digress. I mean, that's I do like the Rhett Lashley move, although
you know what I didn't realize, JC, on this note, I just got this from the Football Writers Association. This is hard to believe, knowing that he's not far removed from Coach Holtz and Coach Spurrier. Beamer's South Carolina's first Eddie Robinson Award finalist ever. That's bizarre. You think about
all those 11-2s. There wasn't a
Spurrier wasn't a finalist any of those years
because it didn't.
Well, they were preseason top 25 most of the years.
The big year Spurrier had he lost 5 games when they had the breakthrough year.
Right.
Now Holtz in 2000, that surposes me. Are you sure Lou Holtz wasn't up for it in 2000?
This is
what they semifinals.
No, they've added.
He won. Both of them won some kind of. Spurrier was one of the national coaches of the year at some point because I remember it was in his contract. He got a bonus for it, and then because they amended his contract for it because he said, "Well, wait a minute, How's this?
Yeah, and in 2000, that award went to Bob Stoops.
Well, that was a hell of a turnaround because they were 7-5 and had no expectations and won the national championship.
They beat Florida State 13-2. Is that right?
2, yeah. Florida State got that big old 2. Quarterback of that team was Josh Heupel, and he looks older than my grandfather now. And
Nate Hibble after him. Yeah, it was
those Sooner teams were. Mike Leach was the OC in '99 and then left, but then Mark Mangino called plays for that team on offense.
Yeah. All right, back to the game, and we'll get into bowl season more and the CFP. The CFP's just been talked to death. So let's start with where Carolina is going to actually play football down in Orlando. What was your reaction to learning about Carolina being the choice over both Alabama and Ole Miss?
Yeah, I only beat McMurphy on about 11 of 41 announcements this season, so I didn't quite meet my goal of a dozen. But
is this a new rivalry? Do we need to chart this next year?
It was big time in the last 3 years. Yeah, I'm trying to get to Brett's level, but the Gamecocks. I mean, it was going to be Gator Bowl or Citrus Bowl, depending on how that shook out. Gator Bowl wanted South Carolina. They were waiting in the wings if the Citrus did not take the Gamecocks. And credit, that crew in Orlando, man, for wanting South Carolina, a team they knew would travel, a team they knew would not have a ton of opt-outs. Kalen DeBoer, Bama coach, said yesterday that he doesn't expect many opt-outs, but they're going to certainly have some. And they're going to have some big names portal here soon, too. They're still trying to get Ryan Williams signed, by the way, to an NIL deal. So
he's in the portal, according to reports.
Yeah. I don't know.
Ryan Williams is in the portal?
Yeah.
And still only 17 years old, if y'all didn't remember that.
Did anybody get that he was 17?
Yeah, right. But yeah, Gamecocks going for 10 wins, man, and the best bowl game you can get to without getting to the playoffs. So that speaks volumes to where Shane has this program. And another assistant coach, Dow Loggins, now getting a head coaching job. That's back-to-back cycles.
Yeah, that's absolutely. We were talking about that earlier. His Shane Beamer's coaching tree is growing. So was the decision based more on the excitement around Carolina football, or no, the Gamecocks are a better football team? We want the next best team that didn't make the CFP.
I mean, usually the Citrus Bowl, on the rarity it can take Alabama, it usually does. If Nick Saban was still the coach there, I think Bama would have gotten the bid, man. I really do. But this time around, the Gamecocks ended the season super hot. Lenora Sellers is going to be a guy that I think will be one of the most watched players on television during bowl season. That's important too. And the fact that the Gamecocks have been to the Citrus Bowl, 2 or 3 times and have pretty much sold out their allotment every time. I've been to the last 2 down there, and I think it was 11 and 13, I want to say.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. We were there for both of those. Going there. Are you making the trip? We're going.
I think I'm covering the Rose Bowl actually for 24/7. So I'll be out there in California. Possibly.
Okay. Yeah. We'll give you a pass on that.
Oh my God, Brad.
That's incredible.
Eric Gilbert has been the portal.
I know, man.
Yeah. So everybody line up.
Yep.
Let's let it. I bet the same.
He's been arrested as many times as he's played for. Let's see, Georgia, LSU, and Nebraska. I think
as many teams as he's played for.
Such a talented guy. He and Bear Alexander need to get together and go to the same school.
I think Bear's going to re-sign with Georgia here soon.
Well, if Kirby wants to take him,
he's much cheaper than he was last cycle.
I would imagine he is, Brad.
Kirby's got 175 defensive tackles, though.
Yeah.
All right. What stands out in this game, in this Citrus Bowl game between Illinois and Carolina?
I think the obviously storyline for Gamecock fans is, getting to play Justin Stepp again. He's a friend of mine, obviously a friend of the program. He watches this program often.
Great game.
That's kind of exciting. And I just think that, seeing a healthy Lenora Sellers trying to win a 7th straight game and seeing Dylan Stewart out there and maybe seeing some defensive players who are going to be starters next year for the Gamecocks. I think South Carolina is going to be, portal heavy on that side of the ball, but just like we saw in the Gator Bowl a couple years ago, some guys kind of made names for themselves in that game. Leggett was one of them. So I'm looking forward to seeing, which starting lineup goes out there and trying to win 10.
This is New Year's Eve at 3:00, right before Boise State plays, I think, which that will be the first game of that second round in the playoffs, I believe, because everybody else plays on New Year's Day.
Yep.
All right. If Carolina can win, they're 10.5-point favorites. They're expected to win the game. If they perform well and do win the game, they get to that 10th win. Lenore, let's throw all the stuff at the board here, Brad. Let's give it all the best case scenarios.
Dylan Stewart, yes.
Yeah, Dylan Stewart comes out with 2.5 sacks. Sellers throws for 250, runs for about 75. He's got 3 touchdowns in the game. All the superstars are the superstars. Everything works out. They finish the year at 10-3 on New Year's Eve. The whole country's watching the ball game. How does that affect the off season, or at least the spring side of the off season for Gamecock football?
I mean, I think you can promote a top 10 program heading into 2025. The Gamecocks would probably finish top 10 in the AP poll too if they blow out Illinois, and some of these first round games or these 2 touchdown, I guess differences that Vegas thinks. I think it's going to be a really good offseason, man. Obviously, the pending OC hire is going to be vital. They need to get Lenora Sellers signed still. There's no rumors of him leaving, despite all these Auburn fans on social media wanting him. But getting him signed is key, and then just figuring out who you want in the portal. NIL's in a better situation right now than it was last cycle.
Yeah.
I think everybody knows that, and obviously there's more to sell right now with Gamecock football going toward a 10th win versus last year's finish.
That Auburn thing's crazy. I know that let's just maybe, lack of a better term, trying, or
even Auburn media, even Auburn media, JC, it's crazy.
That's unethical.
Yeah, it is.
I think when you're sitting there writing propaganda about a player on another team getting in the transfer portal, I don't know. I mean, look, he's a special player, but I mean, who he's close to on the roster is Robbie Ashford. Do you think Robbie Ashford's going to give Auburn a
right
and Hugh Freeze a glowing letter of recommendation?
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man. Let's just get real. They can't. I mean, they may, and I think it's just because the reversal of the NIL fortunes at South Carolina has been very quiet. We haven't really disclosed a lot of it publicly. Some schools do, but and when I say we, I mean I do work for Garnet Trust, so that's why I'm saying we. I think they think there's no money here. Like it's the same old bad situation it was when it was starting out. But guess what? It's not. And he's from Florence. And I don't think he fits the culture there. So that's the thing there. But
so apparently one fast update on the Belichick situation. There's 13 faculty members at UNC who don't want this to happen.
Why do they have a say in it?
Well, I mean, I thought it was an interesting move.
Trustees, big difference there. 13 trustees.
Yeah.
Don't want to happen, and Belichick is
trustees.
Yeah, they've told his reps have told UNC that if you don't meet my demands and my criteria, then I'm unwilling to negotiate. So, man, maybe this might fall through after all.
So he okay.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Dan Mullen,
wild situation.
Just go get Dan Mullen.
I mean,
wow.
So he doesn't want UNC. If he's going to go in college, he wants a project. And he wants to
just get a guy who doesn't allow JMU or ECU to score 70 on Yet Keenan. That's all they want.
As JC said, that could be Dan Mullen for all we know.
I mean, why not? Just go get. I mean, God, go get Ed Orgeron. I don't care. There's plenty of coaches.
Well,
hell, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Hey, they got plenty of time to negotiate with Bill Belichick. They're going to play UConn at 11 in the morning in Fenway Park in Boston on Saturday, December the 28th. So, if they can't get a deal done before that, they'll have plenty of time to negotiate while they're playing football in the Northeast at the end of December. All right, let's look at the rest of bowl season here. You're the expert. We're not. I know you've got a ranking up on CBSSports.com right now, but What outside of Carolina and Illinois, what do you feel like is the best matchup involving an SEC team not in the playoff?
I think Vanderbilt, Georgia Tech. That's a very good game.
Wow.
And I was hoping Vandy did not get screwed and sent to Birmingham, but of course Vandy did. A lot of Vandy insiders I was talking to, they already had their flight itinerary for Tampa playing the Gasparilla Bowl. It didn't work out for Vandy, but that's a very good game. I mean, two coaches who did more with less this year. Brent Key at Georgia Tech beat Miami. Probably should have beaten Georgia had he not got hosed several times in the second half and overtime of that game. And then Clark Lee, Diego Pavia is going to play in the bowl game. Obviously, Haynes King will for Georgia Tech. That's a real good game. And then one game that I'm partial to that I'm very glad has been moved back to Christmas Eve is the Hawaii Bowl, because that means after I'm done wrapping presents for the girls, I will have something to do at 10 p.m. watching the Hawaii Bowl.
I miss those Christmas bowls, man. It's boring around here without.
Yeah, that's a good point. South Florida and San Jose State. We're all looking forward to checking that one out. That's a hell of a trip.
UNC should hire Alex Golish. That'd be great too. That'd be a good hire.
Yeah,
dude, it should be a good job. They got a great sports brand. There's NC State's proven you can win 7, 8 games every year just by recruiting second-tier talent out of North Carolina, or as far as the ratings go and develop them. There's a lot of hidden gems in that state, just like South Carolina. So I don't know, man. I don't know.
What about bowl games outside of the SEC? What is something that you'll keep your eyes on?
I'm surprised the Military Bowl got ECU and NC State to agree to that. Very rare do we get a rivalry game during bowl season. And by the way, they play in the 2025 opener. I was told by an NC State source that State initially said, no, we don't want to play ECU. And then, State got offered some other ACC tie-ins. It's like, okay, we'll take the Military Bowl.
Annapolis is a lot better than Fenway Park at 11 in the morning.
So that's when I'll be watching. Obviously, I want to see Army play in the bowl game. Jeff Monken going for could be 13 wins, man. If he beats Navy, that'd be 12-1, and then 13 in the bowl. That's crazy.
Did Army have a case to be in the playoff?
I think if you take the name ARMY off of that and just had Team A versus Team B, I mean, they had the same resume as Indiana.
That's why I asked you.
They beat as many ranked teams, 0, as Texas. And, they lost the game they should have won. But they also have a conference championship. Indiana doesn't. Texas doesn't. And Penn State doesn't either. But anyway, I just think that Jeff Monken did a great job this season. And yes, if you're a member of the G5, unless you have a Heisman contender playing for you or, you're inside the top 15 throughout the year, you ain't getting no love in the expanded playoff.
Brad, what if Baylor beats LSU in the Texas Bowl?
Then Brian Kelly will be on the SEC's hottest seat, taking over Sam Pittman's hot seat. That's a whole nother just fireball right now in Fayetteville. People don't like Sam Pittman being retained. They got 21 players in the portal. NIL is awful, despite Walmart being the,
that making sense.
Fortune 500 giant. Yeah, but now Brian Kelly's situation where they have to spend money in the portal this cycle, man. They're trying to convince Garrett Nussmeier to return and not declare for the draft. If Nussmeier does declare, they've got a major hole at quarterback because they already lost Bryce Underwood, 5-star quarterback, to Michigan. That's another NIL situation. It's crazy, man. I don't cover amateur sports anymore. I'm covering free agency in college football during December.
Well, speaking of that, we got news here from Matt Zenitz on Twitter. Robbie Ashford has officially entered the transfer portal. What is y'all's reaction to that?
Well, the Gamecocks were in the market for a backup for Lenoris anyway, and who was going to come in and battle Robbie, and I think Robbie knew that. I mean, we saw in the second half of the LSU game how much the Gamecock coaching staff respected, Robbie's situation and his arm. It was like, don't lose the game for us, Robbie.
I don't know what Dowell's going to do at App State, but
yeah, that's a good. Yeah,
I could see if Dowell schemed it up the right way. I mean, I could see him tearing it up there with if they got skill talent around him.
I agree with that, JC. I would love to see that too for both of them.
He needs to go somewhere he can play. I mean, And he was a great trooper all year, and my understanding is very very big part of the team. Was mature about it, but I understand he's got one more year. Go somewhere you can play. There's a lot of places that need quarterbacks, and he's got a good skill set.
Yeah, Duke needs a quarterback. Right
How about that dude, man? Malik Murphy. Good God. Anyway,
sign of the times. Yeah.
All right. As it pertains to the CFP, Brad, I mean, look, again, we could just funnel our way down the same rabbit hole that we've been in for the last 2 weeks and ask the same questions about why South Carolina and why not this team, why not that team, or whatever. It doesn't matter anymore. It's over. Yeah. It's talk to death.
At least Bama's in it. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, exactly. I mean, there certainly need to be changes. There's going to be a time and a place to have those conversations. Right now, though, the field is set. What is the most interesting first-round matchup to you?
Clemson, Texas, because I want to see if Clemson can actually score on Texas. They backed into the ACC championship game because of Miami's hiccup at Syracuse. Clemson's not a playoff team. I don't think anybody really thinks that. Mm-hmm. But they won a home game in Charlotte. They beat SMU at the buzzer. Probably got 3 or 4 first downs in the second half prior to that final drive. They did not move the ball in that second half at all. And now I think Clemson plays for the third time this season an elite team from the SEC and is going to get beat. But if Dabo Swinney does go into Texas and win, I can't imagine the Dabo-isms that we're going to hear after that game from Austin. That'd be a bad loss for Sark, by the way, to lose a first-round home playoff game after going 11-2 in the SEC.
Well, you got that right. They didn't beat anybody really this year. No, outside of the A&M win. That was a nice win. It was a good win at the end of the year. Clemson
did that. Gamecocks did that. Yeah, LSU did that. Well, they got beat, but
right. The Tigers are 11-point dogs in that ball game. It's a 4:00 kick Saturday, December the 21st. On y'all ready for this? This is college football playoffs. If you haven't paid attention, I'm about to ring your bell here. TNT. And Max. Yep.
So we get Ernie Johnson and Charles Barkley calling it. Cool.
TNT and Max. Also, the first game at noon, SMU and Penn State. Penn State's a 9-point favorite in that game. The night before is the Battle of Indiana and Notre Dame. The Irish are 7.5-point favorites there on ABC at 8, Brad, and Tennessee, Ohio State. The Buckeyes are 7.5-point favorites in Columbus. So none of the spreads are under a touchdown, but what's the best game? What'll be the closest game?
The rumor for Ohio State is if they do axe Ryan Day after this season, that he'd probably have to lose to Tennessee in the first round for that to really pick up some fire. But Mike Vrabel is probably the first call for Ohio State. That's kind of been the popular name behind the scenes.
Really?
Urban Meyer's already said he's not interested, but of course Buckeye fans are please call Urban. He's not coming back to Ohio State, but I really think that Ryan Day's hot seat scorches if he loses at home to Tennessee. And we do not know which Ohio State team is going to show up. Like, is it one that lost by a point at Oregon and played well, one that beat Indiana, or is it the one that, coach scared against Michigan and lost to Michigan's worst team in the last 5 years? With all that talent, man, and a $20 million roster, you got to win some playoff games.
Could that be of the first round? Could that be the best game, the closest game?
I think it will be. Yeah, that's going to be a very good game. Now I'm not sure how Nico is going to play in the elements on the road against Ohio State. If I'm Josh Heupel, I'd make sure that game is either won or lost in the hands of Dylan Sampson. He's got 20 plus touchdowns for a reason, and just let your defense with James Pierce, do what it can against Ohio State. But that should be a very, very competitive game. I'd take Vols in 7.5 in that game.
With that 7.5, that clearly via the point spread would be the definition of an upset.
Yeah.
But would it be an upset?
I think it would be.
Okay.
Ohio State's more talented than Tennessee.
Okay.
Right. Ohio State has better wins this season than Tennessee. They beat Penn State and Indiana, two unbeatens at the time.
What about the second round? What is the second round matchup that you'd like to see?
I don't have the bracket in front of me, but I think Penn State, Georgia would be a semifinal. Is that right? Penn State's a team that's being undervalued right now a little bit.
That would be a semifinal, yeah, because if Penn State beats SMU, they've got Boise in the Fiesta Bowl.
I think Arizona State can beat Texas. I do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've mentioned Texas doesn't have any wins this season over ranked teams. I consider Clemson to be the weakest playoff team in this bracket, so they're going to be high and mighty over the Longhorns after that first round win. But Arizona State, man, is playing with its hair on fire, and Cam Scatterbo probably should have been a Heisman finalist. Wow. That's kind of some recency bias, I know, based on what he did the last couple of weeks, and especially Saturday. But yeah, Arizona State, if there's an upset potential, those top 4 seeds, I think Arizona State might beat Texas.
All right, this is totally off the rails here, but I'm going to do it because it's our show. We can do whatever the hell we want to do, Brad. If Arizona, I think the 2 hottest teams in college football are, aside from Oregon winning every game, are clearly Arizona State and the South Carolina Gamecocks.
Yeah.
If they were matched up, how would you view that game? Who'd be favored?
Gamecocks, Arizona State, probably Gamecocks minus 2.5.
It'd be close.
Yeah, that's what I would make it. Sam Leavitt plays a lot like Lenora Sellers. Sellers a much better runner, but I mean Leavitt can move too, and he's tough as nails, just like Lenoris is. Both got very good backs. Both play pretty nasty. The front 7 defensively. Arizona State's a team, and even Kenny Dillingham, man, he kind of wears his emotions on his sleeve the way Shane Beamer does. So those 2 programs disrespected in a way they kind of mirror each other.
All right, now we'll go a little bit even further off the rails and come back to what I mentioned earlier and play the game. If there were no guardrails as far as conference championship tie-ins and some of the politics we feel like that have been played, this clearly, if you're watching, and if you're not watching, you know what the 12-team field is. If we were selecting the 12 best teams in college football, which teams would be replaced from that group and with that group and with whom? I
would take Clemson and SMU out. And the ACC would not have a rep this year. And I would put Ole Miss and South Carolina in. I think Ole Miss is better than Alabama. I know Ole Miss has 2 wretched losses. So does Bama. But, they blew out the SEC champion at home. They blew out Georgia. They blew out a very good South Carolina team. Probably the Gamecocks' best team since 2013.
Yep.
That's 2 very good wins, better than most of this playoff field has. SMU, no wins against top 25 teams. Clemson lost, to both SEC teams it plays. So I'd put South Carolina and Ole Miss in, and Ole Miss would be one of the more dangerous teams because when that team plays well, man, they've got an expansive roster talent-wise. They went into Portland, did really well, but losing to Kentucky and then that road game at Florida, Lane Kiffin has no leg to stand on, missing the postseason. And you'd be comfortable with the rest of the teams that are in that group that are in there now. Yeah, those are playoff teams. I'm fine with Indiana, man. They've blown out every team they've played in the Big Ten. They took advantage of their schedule the way Ole Miss did not. Ole Miss and Indiana have 2 very similar schedules outside of the game against Georgia, and Indiana did what it needed to do. They lost 38-15 to Ohio State, but if y'all watched that game, I mean, they gave up 14 points on special teams, a fumble and a punt return. Mm-hmm. That game's a 1-score game if you take those 2 away. So Indiana's a team that I think can win in the first round, beat a red-hot Notre Dame team. All right. And that leads me to where we're going next here. I'm not trying to keep you all day, but we don't get you often, so we like to have some fun and actually have somebody bring a little bit of value to this thing because we all know I certainly don't. Georgia's in an interesting spot here. Clearly, they're waiting to find out the health of Carson Beck, and from what I've heard, it doesn't sound good. No. Okay, so if this kid can't go, and then that means that they'll turn their attention to we know him. What's his name? Gunnar Stockton. That's right. To Gunnar Stockton, who originally, of course, had committed to Coach Muschamp in South Carolina. And I disagree with my dear friend Pat DeMarco, who I love with all my heart. Yesterday, he was singing his praises. I'm not so sure that I'd want to just toss him in to the semifinals of the quarterfinals of the college football playoff and say, all right, big guy, go win a ball game for us, when he hadn't had to do anything like that in his entire career. Yeah. But also their punter, Thorson, he's out. So,
if they don't have their punter, and he's an outstanding punter, if they don't have him and they don't have their quarterback, regardless of who gets through, Indiana or Notre Dame, how does that affect that ball game against Georgia? What do you think it means for that matchup?
Well, the good news for Georgia is I think they got the most favorable draw. That's arguable, but
I'd agree with that.
It sets up well for the SEC champion, and that's what the 2 seed should get. Oregon kind of got hosed, man, having to play Tennessee or Ohio State in his first matchup. But getting back to Georgia, the main issue all season has been which Carson Beck shows up. So maybe getting a fresh start with a different quarterback is beneficial. They've got 25 days to prepare for their first quarterfinal opponent. I mean, Kirby Smart's pretty good when he has that much time defensively to watch Indiana and Notre Dame film. So I do think they will beat the winner of that game on defense alone. Don't let Gunnar Stockton lose the game. Just let your defense eat in that game. And then against Penn State, maybe in the semis, it gets a little bit tougher. But right now, with Carson Beck likely out for the entire playoff, I would take the field before I took Georgia to win it all.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So you said against Penn State in the playoffs, you're not giving Boise any chance to win the matchup, whoever they get, SMU or Penn State.
No, they're not beating Penn State. Abdul Carter will shut down Ashton Jeanty.
Okay, does Ashton Jeanty win the Heisman Trophy though?
Travis Hunter should get it, and if he doesn't, man, then it's a case of voters hating Colorado and Coach Prime. Because here's why, and just throw out the snap count stuff. I know it's not an official stat. There's probably a dozen guys in college football who could play both sides of the ball, but they couldn't do it at the elite level that Travis does it at receiver. He's a Blitnikoff finalist. He's might be the best cornerback in the country. So he starts at 2 positions, but he does so at elite Heisman level at both positions. That's what impresses me the most. I don't have a Heisman vote, but mine would go Travis Hunter, Ashton Jeanty, and Scatterbo third.
Wow.
I'm surprised Cam Ward got invited to New York. I really am.
Really? Yeah. I didn't have him on my card either. I'm not a Heisman voter, but
I voted for Blitnikoff, and I voted for Travis Hunter. That comes out Thursday, I think. Yeah.
Well, I don't. Cam Ward won't win the Heisman, but look, there's been an infatuation with anytime they get a chance to bring the U back, they do all they can to bring the U back.
Yeah,
that includes award #SCS season or however people do that. All right. Before we get you out of here, Brad, for South Carolina, obviously we got the portal going on.
Yeah.
Dowell Loggins is headed to Boone, North Carolina, a beautiful place on the map and a great football program. Of course, we talked earlier about the fact that, that might not be it. I'm sure we'll begin to hear more soon about other targets from the Carolina staff. They've had a great season. They got a bunch of really good coaches under Shane Beamer. So what do you think the next couple of weeks is going to look like for his entire program?
I think before Christmas, we'll know who the next OC is, whether that's Mike Shula or
add to that. Yeah. What do you think about that?
I think it has to happen soon. You need Lenora Sellers signed. You need to make that announcement so that potential portal acquisitions offensively know who they're going to play with, not only at quarterback, but who's going to coach them next season. That's very important. I think Kyle Kennard winning the Nagurski last night was huge for the defensive side of the ball in the portal. Proves Sterling Lucas can coach a borderline all-conference player at Georgia Tech into a top defensive player in the country and likely late first-round pick. That speaks volumes to player development in South Carolina. And guys in the portal, while they do have that money-first mindset, I mean, they're trying to get to the NFL too. A lot of these guys are on their last shot playing 1 year of eligibility, so that's huge. But I do think a OC decision must be made relatively soon, and I expect the Gamecocks to sign a top 20 portal class this cycle.
All right, I'm going to press you on this. Sorry, but I'm going to do it. Mike Shula or the field? Where are you leaning?
Man, that's tough.
It's okay. You can tell me.
I think Mike may go to App State and follow Dowell.
Oh,
and that's not a bad thing for South Carolina because this is as attractive offensively this team has looked in a decade. I mean, you get to play with a future first-round quarterback. You can help a new wide receiver coach, sign even more talent at the skill positions. I'd be knocking on Shane Beamer's door if I'm an OC at maybe a program just outside the top 25, trying to improve my coaching resume. But Shane will make a good hire. I used to doubt this kind of stuff, but I mean, Pete Limbo has a coaching job at Buffalo. Dowell Loggins is now App State's head coach. No one saw that coming. Right. And the wide receiver coach he hired, Mike Fury, I mean, you see what he's done his first season recruiting and production-wise. So Shane's got it going on right now as far as coaching evaluations go.
Yeah, I think a lot's changed for him. I think that there was a lot of people that certainly wanted to wait and see how Shane Beamer would actually work out at South Carolina. It's clear that that's working out, and now he's got a bunch of superstars to build his program around. Brad, to your point, if you have to go out and hire coaches now, it does seem like that list is maybe a little bit longer of dudes who are interested or who you are interested in that might have that, reciprocate that interest. And
the Gamecocks might play the role of poacher for the first time in a while. I mean, this is a program now that's probably top 15 ranking next August for 2025. Maybe Shane reaches out to a current SEC coordinator and pulls him away from his program.
Could be a sitting head coach somewhere. We're seeing a lot of that too. You just never know. Brad, first and foremost, it's always a pleasure to have you on the program. You do such a wonderful job. Every day there's something to read from the desk of Brad Crawford, especially during bowl season and portal season and CFP season. I don't know how many Brad Crawfords are out there, but it seems like there's more than one. So you do a wonderful job with covering college football. You're a great person. We next Friday will be our last day for a little while. We will have a bowl show, so maybe we'll try to squeeze you into that.
If for some reason I am not covering the playoff, I will see you at Disney.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. Make sure you let me know. We're staying down there. I'm pretty sure at the team hotel, but
cool. Okay.
I won't tell people that. But most importantly, above all else, Merry Christmas to you and your family and your children. Santa will be here before long.
Yeah.
And we all know the reason for the season. We know that's celebrated highly in your house. So Merry Christmas, man.
Good to see y'all. Phil, good to see you too, man.
You as well, Brad. Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks for all you do for college football.
Hey, thanks, man.
There you go. Brad Crawford, who's fantastic.